What does depression look like? Depression has many faces. Depression looks different ways, and depression isn't always the same for everybody. I wanted to talk about that because it's a misconception that people that are depressed are just like always crying and in bed all the time and in a dark room or whatever. But that's not the way depression looks all the time or on everybody. Those who know me, I am more of a writer than I am, just, getting on camera. So, because I am a writer, I wrote what I wanted to say I typed it out on what I wanted to talk about when it comes to what depression looks like. So, people think depression always looks like sadness and isolation, but sometimes it looks like staying busy just so you don't drown in the sadness. I used to not want to get out of bed, ignore texts, disappear from social media, but through therapy and healing, I've learned more about myself. For example, I don't cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm in pain. When something really, truly hurts me, that's when I cry. But when I'm sad, for some reason, I don't cry. I sit in that sadness, but I can't seem to cry. Now, instead of letting myself slip back into that dark place, I choose to stay active. I create content. I keep my mind busy. I go out to dinner or brunch with my friends. I just try to keep myself busy. Does that mean that I'm not depressed? No. Does that mean that I'm not hurting? No. It just means that I know my patterns and I refuse to let my depression pull me back into that darkness. I used to not want to do anything. I would ignore texts from friends for weeks, sometimes even months, because I would drown myself into this depression that I couldn't get myself out of. So, again, through healing and therapy, I learned a lot about myself and I learned my patterns and I learned, oh, I feel I'm getting into a depression or I feel like I'm gonna start getting anxious or whatever it may be. And no longer allow myself to fall back into that darkness. Someone once told me that the way I keep posting makes it seem like nothing's hurting, like I'm okay, like there's nothing wrong or there's nothing going on. But what they didn't or and probably still don't understand, some people don't understand, is that this helps me heal. Like this helps me to not allow myself to fall back into that dark place because it was so dark. It was so bad. And I don't want to fall back into that again. So creating content and, meeting up with friends for dinner, it's like it keeps me out of that hole that I never want to go back to again. So depression doesn't always look the same. Sometimes survival looks like creating, posting, staying busy, and like I said, hanging out with friends. So depression isn't doesn't just have one phase. It has many. There's many people on this world, and not everybody handles depression the same. Not everybody's depression looks the same. That is something that some people need to understand, and some people need to learn. Just how we don't all process things the same way, we all don't handle sadness or depression the same way. That is just something that I wanted to share. And I like to classify myself as a high functioning depressive person because I don't I make myself or I encourage myself to keep keep my day-to-days and all of that stuff to again not not take myself back into that place that I know I can get to, but I no longer want to go there. So with that being said, that doesn't mean that I don't allow myself to process my emotions or to feel what I'm feeling, because I do. I do have those moments where I just stay in bed. I don't want to get out. I close my curtains, I close my door, and I just lay there. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to, nothing at all. I go without eating and I cry and all of that. So I still do process my emotions and all of that. It's just, it's different every day. Some days are heavier than others. I allow myself to feel. I allow myself to process. But I don't allow myself to stay there. I have been on antidepressants before. I haven't taken them because, again, I have learned how to manage my depression. However, if I ever feel the need that I need them again, I will start taking them again. There's no shame in that. Also, anxiety medication. I haven't had to take that either. I'm just so love you guys.